Welcome back, America. Earlier today, I got a text from my brother. He's a law enforcement guy. And he said, you got to look at what this congressman said today. I looked at it. It was Congressman Gabe Evans, who just happens to be on our show tonight. I want to bring him in because he gave, I think, one of the most epic defenses of what law enforcement are going through with all these leftist anarchists who are now attacking him today. A man was arrested for actually throwing Molotov cocktails at ICE agents in California, or their security detail at least. Joining us now, a former cop himself, and now a congressman for the great state of Colorado, Congressman Gabe Evans. Sir, good to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, this was an epic moment. You're sitting there, you're watching all this silliness play out before you, and you felt pretty compelled to tell the American people and your colleagues it's time to stand up for the men and women in blue. Tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I was a cop for 10 years. I was a soldier for 12 years. So making sure that we take care of our country, our state, our community is critically important to me. And defending those who defend us is critically important to me. And unfortunately, we've seen in the country what happens when leftist elected leaders go after cops, when they make law enforcement the bad guy. It's our communities that suffer for it. In Colorado, we just had the 6th largest fentanyl seizure in U.S. history happen in the south side of the Denver metro area. Enough fentanyl to kill 6.8 million Americans. That poison is in our communities because Colorado is a sanctuary city and a sanctuary state. They've fully embraced defund the police ideology. And so cartels, drug traffickers, criminals are free to bring that poison into our community. Our communities pay the price. Colorado has been the #2 state in the nation for teenagers overdosing and dying on fentanyl. And as a police officer, when you see that every day and you can't do anything about it because of how you're handcuffed by a bunch of leftist laws, then that's a moral injury. It's a mental injury in addition to all of the physical danger that occurs when you have all of this anti-law enforcement rhetoric. So I kind of went off on some folks and laid down some hard truths based on 10 years of being a cop and having to actually bury 2 of my buddies, one of whom was assassinated, shot in the back by an anti-law enforcement activist who was radicalized by a lot of the rhetoric that comes from a lot of these leftist defund the police leaders.
Congressman, supporting police used to be an American issue. It was not Democrat. It was not Republican. And it seems like the beginning of all of this happened, 2009, when Barack Obama demonized police in Massachusetts. It feels like that was the beginning of this new era where Democrats really think it's okay to demonize any form of law enforcement.
Well, it goes beyond that. I mean, a lot of times they're going to demonize anybody that disagrees with them. One of the things that I brought up in Homeland Security earlier today was when the Democrat Speaker of the State House in Minnesota was murdered, every single Republican voted to condemn that act of political violence. But when Charlie Kirk got murdered, 118 Democrats could not bring themselves to condemn that act of political violence against a conservative figure. And so you have a complete and total disconnect with the Democrat Party, with their leftist base, in terms of just being able to condemn something as simple as political violence. And of course, it's the cops that are ultimately going to have to try to hold things together because they're the ones that are ultimately at the receiving end of trying to keep violence out of our communities.
So I want to ask you about something that Democrats are saying more loudly now, and it has me scratching my head. They don't want the U.S. military to stop the poison coming into our country, to knock out. They don't even want to call the men and women who are in those boats taking lethal amounts of fentanyl into our country terrorists. They don't even like the term narco-terrorists. They seem to be on the side of the poisoners, not the poisoned in our country. What is their thinking, and how do we combat it?
I mean, if I could tell you what their thinking was, I don't know what I would be doing, but it would be maybe something.
Zillions of dollars.
Yeah, right. But I alluded to it earlier. In addition to 10 years as a police officer, I spent 12 years in the U.S. Army. I deployed to a combat zone as part of the global war on terror. And so making sure that we keep our country, our states, our communities safe from terrorism is something that, again, I spent a year of my life in a combat zone doing. Every 15 days under the Biden administration, we lost the same number of Americans to drug overdoses as we lost in the entirety of the September 11th terrorist attacks. The cartels, the drug dealers, the traffickers, they have killed more Americans than Al-Qaeda could ever dream of simply by smuggling this poison into our communities. The #1 killer of Americans ages 18 to 45 under Joe Biden was fentanyl. And so these foreign terrorist organizations have completely earned that designation as such by the Trump administration. The cartels that are bringing this poison into our community are terrorists. They killed as many Americans. Every 15 days under Joe Biden as died at the hand of Al-Qaeda in the September 11th terrorist attacks. And it's time that we put an end to this poison flowing into our communities. They're terrorists. They need to be treated as such.
And I know you've honed in on social media. I know there's a lot of bad stuff that happens on social media, but I think for a lot of Americans, they don't see logistically how it happens that fentanyl is trafficked. Is it a message from someone on the other side of the border that says, meet me at X location so you can come pick this up? How does it happen?
Yeah, so one of the pieces of legislation that I've introduced, actually it's a bipartisan piece of legislation, is focusing on identifying those exact things. How is fentanyl trafficked over things like social media? I used to have to deal with that as a police officer. Something as simple as an online game where there's a chat feature where players in this online game can talk to each other. That can be weaponized by traffickers to get on the game, play the game, reach out to young, impressionable, vulnerable kids, start talking things up, and then ultimately be able to set up these buys where fentanyl or other illicit drugs, dangerous drugs, are being socialized, made to sound cool by online predators through things like game chats, and then ultimately making that point of sale. So that's what my piece of legislation is focused on. It is untangling what we used to call in the Army TTPs, those techniques, tactics, and procedures that drug users use to prey upon our kids using something like social media or online gaming platforms with chat features.
Such important stuff, such common sense work that you're proposing. Sir, it's a great honor to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for your service as well. It's an amazing contribution. Thank you so much. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, what I told you at the top of the show, you weren't getting the real story about the Hegseth IG report. I'm going to prove it to you next because we got one of Pete Hegseth, that was Secretary of War's top advisors with us. He's one of the smartest lawyers I know, too. Tim Parlatore. Up next after these messages.